The Buddha has to say the unsayable. He has to express the inexpressible. He has to define the indefinable.
Namaste, world raisers. Sabine and Roger here. Let's watch A Buddha Will Be Misunderstood.
A Buddha will be misunderstood indeed. If Buddhas were understood, this would be a totally different world right now. So let's find out what Osho has to say about this.
Is it absolutely inevitable that a Buddha will always be misunderstood? Prem Madira. Yes, it is absolutely inevitable. It can't be otherwise. A Buddha is bound to be misunderstood. If a Buddha is not misunderstood, then he is not a Buddha at all. Why it is so? Because the Buddha lives in a state which is beyond mind. And we live in minds. To translate something from the beyond to the mind is the most impossible thing in the world. It can't be done. Although every Buddha has tried to do it. That too is inevitable. No Buddha can avoid it. The Buddha has to say the unsayable. He has to express the inexpressible. He has to define the indefinable. He has to do this absurd act. Because the moment he reaches beyond the mind, great compassion arises. He can see people stumbling in the dark. He can see people suffering unnecessarily, creating their own nightmares, creating their own hell, and drowning in their own created hells. How can he avoid not feeling compassion? And the moment compassion arises, he wants to communicate to them that this is your own doing, that you can get out of it, that there is a way out of it, that there is a state beyond it. That life is not what you think it is. Your thinking about life is just like the thinking of a blind man about light. The blind man can go on thinking about light, but he will never be able to come to a true conclusion. His conclusions may be very logical, but still they will miss the experience. Light is an experience. You don't need logic for it. What you need is eyes. Buddha has eyes. And eyes are attained only when you have gone beyond the mind. When you have become a witness of the mind. when you have attained to a higher state than psychology, when you know that you are not your thoughts, not your body, when you know that you are only knowing, the energy that reflects, the energy that is capable of seeing, that you are pure seeing. Once Buddha was asked, "Who are you?" He was such a beautiful man, and the Buddhahood has conferred such grace to him that many times he is asked, "Who are you?" He looked like an emperor or a god who has come from the heaven. And he lived like a beggar. Again and again he is asked, "Who are you?" And the man who was asking was a great scholar. He said, "Are you from the world of gods? Are you a god?" Buddha said, "No." "Then are you a Gandharva?" Gandharvas are the musicians of the gods. Buddha had such music around himself. The music of silence, the sound of no sounds, one hand clapping. That it was natural to ask him, "Are you a Gandharva? A celestial musician?" Buddha said, "No." And the man goes on asking. There are many categories in Hindu mythology, from gods to men. Then finally he asked, "Are you a great king, a Chakravartin, one who rules over the world?" And Buddha says, "No." Annoyed, the scholar asked, "Are you a man or not even that?" Buddha said, "Don't be annoyed. But what can I do? I have to state the truth as it is. I am not a man either." Now the scholar is too much angry, enraged. He says, "Then are you an animal?" Buddha said, "No. Not an animal, not a tree, not a rock." "Then who are you?" the man asked. Buddha said, "I am awareness." Just pure awareness. Just a mirror reflecting all that is. When this moment arrives, great compassion happens. Buddha has said that those who know are bound to feel compassion for those who don't know. They start trying to help. And the first thing that has to be done is to communicate to people who are blind that eyes are possible, that you are not really blind, but only keeping your eyes closed. You can open your eyes. You are not born blind. You have only been taught to remain blind. Your society teaches you to be blind.
Oh, how wonderful. This was the second time we listened to Osho, and this time he was actually speaking himself. And I could actually hear the background music from the first video. Because, yeah, I really, really love his voice. And some people commented, look him into the eyes. And he actually looked into the camera. And I know what you mean, people. I really do.
Yeah, so the first video, it was just audio only. So we didn't have that, visual of him speaking. So, yeah, this was great. And from my understanding of what a Buddha is, it was very accurate. So he definitely knows what he's talking about in regards to the Buddha and the Buddha nature. That will be misunderstood because you're communicating something totally beyond, the ego. He called it the psychology, the psychological mind. And most people, as we know, the mind in general, it is that thinking mind. So when you go beyond what we call mind, thinking mind, it's considered big mind. It's, it's the absolute. It's the Buddha nature, called by many names. And it's non-dual, right? So then that's the omniscient mind that experiences, awareness, non-dualistically. So aware of everything at the same time, if I understand correctly. So that's what he's talking about as eyes, right? So we all have this Buddha nature, but it's like, where our eyes are closed, we're asleep, we're in a dream. So the other term for Buddha, from how I was taught, means awake, right? He calls it awareness, which is pointing to the same thing, right? So the Buddha, was awake from the dream of being totally identified with the body and the lower, psychological ego mind of just language and thought, to, the ground and the essence of the pure mind, which is just pure awareness or consciousness. So fantastic. And misunderstood in the world because it's beyond it's beyond conceptualization. It's just so hard for an ego identified being. Like, I think that I'm this body. I am Roger, and here I am. How do you grasp something that's, talking about, non-duality and, a state of mind that's beyond anything you could possibly conceive of or imagine, right? So people are going to get these teachings. The Buddha is compelled by compassion to teach, and then totally misunderstood. Or we raise these beings up to be something special and unique and the only one. And then what arises from the teachings? A lot of violence and strife and negativity, and we're right, you're wrong. So we need to, evolve beyond that. And I think more and more humanity is waking up and getting to the core and the essence, even like within religions, they're all founded upon a great being who understood. And so it's the teachings that's important, and understanding that many beings have attained to this realization, and we can as well, when we don't limit ourselves, right? So I love Satguru's teachings as well, where he says the biggest problem is the problem of identity, right? Which is just psychological, where I think that I am this, I come from this country, I believe in this government, and my nation is the best, and I practice this religion, and I'm right and you're wrong, and blah, 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 blah. That's just limiting our identity, when in reality, there's one source of everything in existence, and we're part of that source. We're life itself. And that's more of an unlimited identity when you think about it. You're just pure awareness, pure consciousness. Yeah, right now in this experience, I experience myself as limited to this form, but that's not ultimately, who we are as the Buddha nature, right? So we can slowly begin to understand, I think.
Yeah. And was this not his very first teaching that he gave? Some say the Four Noble Truths, but even before that, once he awakened, and then on the way from Bodh Gaya to Sarnath, someone
it could be.
met him and then asked him a question. Yeah, who are you? And obviously he did not give quite a satisfying answer, because, even in his first teaching, he was already misunderstood, because it's like, it's beyond, it's like you can't understand. And pure awareness, that's not something we're familiar with, not something we get taught in school. Imagine. How would we know?
Yeah, we're even equating awareness with like concentration and attention.
Yeah.
Which which isn't the same, right?
Yeah.
So there's always a pervading field of awareness, no matter what you're doing in any situation, even while, sleeping and dreaming, there's always an awareness that is there, right? And so that's the Buddha nature.
And when you're aware, it has a very different flavor. Very different. Because some people say, oh, I know, I'm aware of this, I'm aware of that. But awareness has a different flavor. You can know, like, it's a knowing, it's a quiet, observing quality without preference, and it's very beautiful.
Yeah, pure. That's why they say big teachings that coincides with pure awareness is pure and total presence, right? So just when you're totally present, just pure being without any sort of content, entering the mind and distracting you, just in the pure presence without the past interfering or the future, in the moment, right? That's the access point.
Yeah, that's the access. But even though, I don't know, because I got a taste of what it means to be aware over the last months, even those present moment teachings, even though I practiced that in the past, it was still not going deep enough. Like beyond that, you're still, like, I don't know, thinking, oh, I'm present and this is beautiful and that. But being aware is so different. And you know what I mean. You had the experience, don't you?
Fascinating. No, I get what you're saying, because, the ego can still be aware in the present moment, totally identified, but, a glimpse of this pure awareness that is just, kind of beyond that. Yeah, it's different. So we're still talking about the same thing. The present moment, you got to be present. So the awareness that you're talking about, that awareness is presence itself. Like, it is pure and total presence, right?
Yeah.
But I know the distinction, because if your ego's thinking that it's present, then it's not the real awareness that we're talking about. It's still,
that's what I meant.
Ego identified. It's more like, what I said about, just being in the conceptual mind of thinking that, attention and concentration is the same, right?
Okay. Another thing I wanted to touch on were his face expressions.
Oh yeah.
He can raise his eyebrows all the way up.
The eyebrow raise.
It's like, ooh, he looked like a madman, ready to shatter all illusions. Shatter all illusions. One of the quotes that we posted the other day. And I can see why. I can see he has fire in him. He also reminded me of Lama Yeshe. Lama Thupten Yeshe with this, like, this just madman look in the most positive way, I mean.
Yeah, it's presence, right? So.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you like this video as much as we did, please hit that like button. Remember to subscribe. It really, really helps the channel. Let us know what you think of this teaching down in the comments. And remember, raise yourself.
And raise the beautiful world with all its people. Thank you so much, everyone. And a very special thank you to all our members. We love you.
Peace.